Good afternoon, everyone. It's such an honor to be here in the midst of all of these wonderful ladies from different parts of the world. I feel so honored to be serving on this panel today. I don't know if anyone told you how beautiful you look, and I just want you to look on the left and to the right-hand side and give a woman a hug. You see, you didn't have to wait till this time. Oh my goodness, you just noticed that the woman beside you is so gorgeous. Right, okay. So you want to do that again and again. Every time that you go to an event, don't let your bag sit on the chair. Make sure that you walk to the woman next to you and just tell her she's beautiful. Sometimes that's just all what we need to hear. Because if we get used to telling each other how much we love and care about ourselves, we're really not going to care if any guy tells you if you look good or not. Because I look beautiful. So if you say that I do, that's a bonus. Okay. So this is going to be a fun session. I don't like things being too quiet. I'm going to share a personal story about myself. And just kind of tapping from what my sister shared earlier on today, Dr. Esperanza, what is your why? Even as we sit in the room and make all these beautiful conversations, I don't want it to be another session that you take notes and take pictures and take all the videos and go back and nothing happens. What is your why? Because it's your why that is going to drive you. When the alarm clock rings, like it did for me this morning, just when I wanted to start dreaming, and you really don't want to get up, what fuels you? Your why. A lot of times we have women so busy trying to drive the government's agenda. But what is your personal agenda? Why are you here? Why do we have to meet every year? Why is it so important anyways? What is your why? So let me share a bit of a story about me. In 2016, February to be precise, I lost my mom. And at the time, I had already accepted to speak in a conference in Johannesburg. And I thought, oh my goodness, I have to just kind of turn it down. Now the ads were up already. And of course, my brothers and sisters in Nigeria understand that when there's a funeral, you cannot be speaking around. They're probably going to throw you out of your family. So I thought, what am I going to do? But I also had to ask myself, what would mom had wanted me to do? So even in the midst of pain, I know that culture expects me to wear all the blacks. So what I did was walk into the store and get all the black, beautiful outfits. But then, the tiny negative Nelly right behind my neck kept saying, what do you think you're doing? It's a good excuse just to turn it down. You have every reason. You could just be crying every single day. Everybody's going to get it. And so I sent a mail to the organizer and I said, I'm so sorry. It looks like I'm going to have to miss this. And God bless his heart. He said, think about it, doctor. I'll get back to you. And I thought, what is wrong with him? It's because he's a man. He's not thinking. A couple of weeks later, I had to make up. And while I left Virginia for 19 hours to go to Johannesburg, I think that was the first time I was able to cry. Because I was in so much of a shock and disbelief I thought, what does it mean for mom to die? Like, are you serious? She died? She's not talking again? For 19 hours, I wept like a baby. And the person next to me kept asking, are you sure you're okay? I said, no, I'm fine. And when I got to Joburg, and I got to my hotel, I got into my room pretty late. And of course, the kitchen was closed. There was no food to eat, so I had to drink a lot of water. Right at about 3:24 a.m., I had the phone ringing. So I'm thinking, oh my God, they've come for me to kill me. Why did you travel? The phone was ringing, and I didn't know anyone in South Africa, so I was so afraid. And so the phone went off for a long time, a couple of times. Then I heard the knock on the door. I said, oh my goodness, this is it. So I picked my phone, I called my husband, and I said, I don't know if my mom's village people are here. I don't know. As someone is knocking on the door, someone is ringing the bell. I don't know what to do. And he said, okay, I think I'm going to call the hotel. And he did. And asked them, why is her room phone ringing? He said, oh, I'm so sorry. There is a lady here, and she's heavily pregnant. And she was just about to check out of the hotel. And she saw the billboard and said, you mean this lady is here? I said, yes. I said, can I see her? And because she was so heavily pregnant, we couldn't say no. And she's right here. She would love to speak to her. I'm thinking, this is a joke. I don't know anyone in South Africa. Like, who is at the door? And the lady, I heard her voice. She said, please, Ma, I would love to meet you. Okay. Thinking, this is Nollywood, but there's no camera. So I gave her my room number, and she walked up, and I saw this lady with a huge belly for like over 8 months. And she was weeping, and she whispered in my ear. She said, I'm in a toxic relationship. I'm here with my husband. We're just about to check out. I've heard so much about you, I didn't know how I was going to meet you. And then I saw your photo. Thank you so much for opening your door. Could you please give me your card? I gave it to her and said, no, your card is not enough. Can I take your number, please? I just want to drop the baby and walk out. Right at that point, I realized why I had to be in South Africa. It was because of that woman. Now, if you're sitting here in this room and looking for someone to push you, and you haven't found your why yet, it is time that you do a lot of thinking and self-work, because all of us have got an assignment. And that assignment is not for you. Is to serve somebody else. Imagine if I said no and I did not make the trip. What could have happened to the lady? She was looking for someone to speak with. She was looking for someone to work with her. She was looking for a sister. She was looking for a friend. And here was I in Virginia with the call to go and save this one lady in South Africa. Meanwhile, I didn't tell you that up until that point, I didn't realize what I was going to be speaking about because I was busy crying. But right when the lady left my room, it dropped in my heart. And the title of my talk that day was, We've Got the Power. Even when it seems as though you're dying, even when you're torn down with all of the labels and brokenness, the power lies inside of you. So as we continue this conversation about women in leadership, I really want to encourage every woman in this room. have that conversation with yourself. What is my why? Why do I do what I do? My message is linked to my tribe. It's meant to save somebody. Just like Maya Angelou says, I stand not as one, but as 10,000. And so as you sit in this room, there are 9,999 women right behind you, crying and weeping and broken, and just wondering, who is going to hold my hands? So I want to encourage you today that even as you go away, everything that has been shared here, do not throw it away. Find your tribe. So we're here today really to talk about women in leadership and using the Rwandan model. And first of all, our first speaker, because she's joining us virtually, so I have to bring her. She's on the screen. Hello, Stacy. Can you hear me? Okay. Can someone help? Stacy is joining us. Okay, so we'll just get things going as the media helps us with this. Thank you so much. So Rwanda has been such a great example when it comes to women in leadership. And it is safe for us to just say, Rwandans are so blessed. Okay. They are lucky. Their president is wonderful. Okay. I don't think that's good enough. I have learned such a huge lesson from the women in Rwanda that they had a heart of service. And so this is why I believe that women in leadership will never be effective unless it comes from a place of service. So if we're not ready to serve, then we're not ready for leadership. Because leadership or service is what would help us build influence, build trust, build credibility, and get people to listen to us. Is Stacy ready for us? Hello, Stacy.
Hi, Doctor. Can you hear me?
And so my first question would be for Nkem. Nkem is the founder of her network, Nkem Onwudiwe. If I don't get it right after dinner, I will. Please forgive me. Nkem is here to talk to us about women in leadership. Nkem, with your experience, looking at the story in Rwanda, of course in Nigeria where you're based, we have a lot of great women, like Ngozi Inwela, women that we've known about. We've had Margaret Ekpo from the past, and so many others. What do you think is the major challenge that women are facing in leadership? Over to you, Nkem.
Legal business.
Can someone help? Something is wrong with the microphones.
Can Moses stay with Linda?
Can you hear me?
Is it good in the house?
Green light is on. You can hear me now. Okay, thank you very much. I would say hi, everyone. I like to refer to women as queens. So hi, queens.
Hi.
And thank you very much for having me. I feel so blessed to be flanked by incredible women. And I just want to say that, you know, the confirmation that we are all here for a reason couldn't be clearer. And thank you for saying that. I share the story of the death of your mom. I lost my dad, and I was in the hospital with him when he passed. And I had a project that I was supposed to deliver on, and I was in tears. And I had to call them to cancel it. And they said the same thing, that I should think about it. So I remembered when my dad would come into my room, past 12, 3 a.m., I'm working on something, and I am so stressed and so tired, and I'm like, Dad, I cannot do this. He particularly one day sat down with me and helped me to solve a problem. And he said, listen, I know you. You are my daughter, and there is nothing that you cannot do if you put your
Linda using Moses.
Because it's because of the resilient spirit that they had, the fact that they decided to go for whatever it is they wanted, regardless of what anyone had to say. Especially Ngozi, you see that through her journey, she faced a lot of opposition, even from Nigerians, but what she did was, I think she put her blinders on and she went straight on. And you see today everybody is celebrating her. Why? Because she focused on her why, and she went for it regardless. So the mindset thing, I think, is a fundamental issue in Nigeria today. We need to change our mindset to be able to achieve adequate representation at that level for women. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nkem. Do we still have Stacy? Can we still bring her up, Stacy?
Looking for a job.
Doesn't look like it's working.
Want to get financially
Okay,
stable.
we're just going to continue to Thea.
At her comfort.
I really loved listening to you. Thank you so much for all that you shared. I think that is so important because sometimes we get squeezed into the box. And when you talked about the table, for me, I'd say that you are the table. You don't need to look for a table to sit on. If you understand your why, you can just begin it from there. We have struggled over the years looking for a table, looking for a seat. Why not start from where you are? Every woman is a leader, whether you're at home, in the workspace, as an entrepreneur, in the community. How well are you getting your voice heard? How are you amplifying your voice, even where you found yourself? You don't need to be in a leadership or political position for us to hear your voice. What are you doing? I had a chat with my sister earlier on today during lunch, and she shared something that I really loved. She talked about working with women in smaller cells. And I think that this session should really help us to be able to demystify women in leadership and not think that it's just for a certain group of people, but wherever that you find yourself, you can bring 2 or 3 women together and begin to have a conversation, and that could be a safe space where people can open up and connect, and their awareness begins, their empowerment begins. You don't have to wait to be in an office. So this takes me to my next question for Thea. Thea, looking at the Rwandan story, why do you think they succeeded to have over 64% of women in the parliament? Why do you think they succeeded? Because that's the model that we're looking at with this conversation. Over to you, Thea. The microphone.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So I definitely want to take a moment to just, congratulate COAP on this function, and also Kigali and Rwanda for what they've achieved, not just with the function, but in changing the paradigm and making sure that so many women are in that political leadership. But I think that it's taken drive and there's hardship behind it. They faced tremendous challenge, and they, as a collective, women stood up. It took diligence, it took perseverance, it took not giving up. And I think if there's one lesson we can learn from the Rwandan women is not to give up. They have faced many challenges. I think like most nations, there's always a history. There's always things that when we look back, we think, how could this have happened? But there's also, out of that horror, you see a new birth. You see people persevering. You see that commitment and diligence and that faithfulness in small things. In the end, that faithfulness is opening the doors. And I also want to say that we all know that Rwanda hasn't arrived in all aspects. There is further work. I mean, if we look in terms of, being able to have a voice, to have decision-making in terms of land, in terms of gifts from your father, in terms of making decisions in terms of property, in making decisions from a financial point, having credit access, being able to, as a business owner, stand on your own rights and having equal support that is given to men. You know, so we haven't arrived in Rwanda or in Africa, but I think what is inspiring is we can see that through political leadership, there's been this paradigm shift and change, and they're putting the policies in place, they're putting the systems in place, they're having the white papers, they're having a change of legislation. And if we start there, and I think once or twice today it was said that political leadership is so important, so ladies, please, get involved in politics so that there is a voice and that you could change the policies that is governing the rule of the country. So we've learned that from you guys, but I encourage you all to take that up in your own countries as well.
Thank you so much, Thea. I love it. You know, when I think about the story of the Rwandan women, or even Liberia's and Sierra Leone, just like we learned today, one of the things that I have noticed is women being effective interrupters. And so what did they do? They were not just concerned about the conflict or the genocide that was happening, they were also concerned about restoration. Because restoration takes a lot. It's a step further. And I think that's something that we want to begin to add after restoration. It's really civility. How do we begin to live together? Otherwise, another genocide could happen. How do we start to live together? How can I get to understand you? How can I get to appreciate you? How can I start to work and collaborate with you rather than compete with you? Nobody wanted to hear that. And that's the problem that women face. Just like my sister talked about today, Dr. Esperanza, she says she walks into the room and the question she asks herself is, what can I learn from you? And that's how it should be. I'm sucking from all of you. That's why I'm feeling so hot, because there's so much positive energy in here. How are you able to open up to work with women? Are you just walking into the room and feeling pretty and not talking to anyone? This is not the place to do that. It's time for us to network. Together, we will make the difference. Working together. So one thing you want to take away, if you never accepted that word, is collaboration. Women cannot do it alone. We have to work together. This brings me to my next question for my sister over there, Fina. Thank you so much. Now, Fina, we have heard about the great role of women in peace building and sustainable development. Why is it so important? And why do we need women to create peace and for sustainable development? Over to you.
Thank you, and hi everyone. Because my profile is not there, my name is Fina Godisang. I am from South Africa. I am the CEO of the Soul City Institute for Social Justice. And my particular interest in social justice is because, you know, if you put women in the forefront, women are able to apply intersectionality in how they deal with issues, because they understand that you are not just a siloed human being. You know, there are many intersections that you deal with. You know, you deal with life from a social perspective, an economic perspective, a cultural perspective, a political perspective. And that's how you are able to bring peace, because you are able to integrate all these, you know, spheres of life and look at, if we only give women economic empowerment but don't deal with the fact that they are still excluded in decision making culturally, we are not going to win. So intersectionality is important, and I think women, because of the nurturing role that we are born with, you know, you are talking about Adam and Eve, and how, I never want to agree when they say Eve is the reason why, you know, there's chaos in the world. In fact, I believe she brought order, because Adam failed in his role, you know, as somebody who was firstly created and mandated to do something in the garden. That's a story for another day. But I think, to answer your question, peace is important, and if we put women at the forefront, because we live in a very patriarchal society that excludes, it's very exclusionary patriarchy. So from a feminist lens, women are able to then integrate, and that's how we talk transformation, diversity, inclusion.
I love it. Thank you so much. And you just talked about Eve. I see myself as Eve. My name wasn't Louisa. It probably would be Eve. Because I see a lot of similarities. I'm one of those people who are so inquisitive. I would love to see what's in the apple. Let's even try it. So when people talk about how Eve is the problem in the society, I don't think so. I think she was a smart woman. You don't want to take people's labels for you. In this case, it was God and Adam and, but when people tell you you cannot, you want to show them that you can.
Yeah.
So I love that part about Eve. Okay, we're just going to continue the conversation. Madame Ijoma, can we ask some questions? Because I would love to ask a question from the Sierra Leonean perspective. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, yes, please. So my next question is, what can women begin to do now? Because we can have this great conversation and we don't have a to-do. What's the next step? I want us to be able to go away with what to do. As you get out of the room, you must have the tools to use. So what can we do now, knowing that we've made all the mistakes and we're ready to step up to the front lines? What can we do now? I have a question for you. What can we do now? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I think it's similar to the question I asked earlier. What next? What can we do? I believe we have majority of the African countries here present. We can have ambassadors of those countries. When I say ambassador, I'm not talking from the political point of view. I'm talking about ambassadors for women. This is a great summit. It's a wonderful one. I was speaking to two young ladies that are lawyers from Cameroon. I wasn't really here to talk about my story, and I think the MC or someone mentioned that if people talk about their stories, I think this room will be filled of tears. It will be filled of tears because of the glass ceiling we've broken. I fell out with someone over the summer in England because I used the exact word that if you leave yourself in that corner, you will not break the glass ceiling. If you speak to some of the ladies from Sierra Leone, of course I help family, but I believe in helping the women especially, not the ones that I'm related to. How do you help them? In the professional field and all of that. It takes time. All of this we're saying is not going to happen in a day, or a month, or a year. It's time. And time will tell. And we shouldn't stop, but persevere to make sure that it happens. So going back to your question is, I believe we should be like ambassadors out there. And we don't necessarily need to meet in person. We can even meet online. You can do it monthly or every 2 months to say, show us tangibles as to what steps you've made. So if I know you're going to contact me and speak about the tangibles, then I'm going to go out there and work hard. As you rightly said, it's not coming in and looking pretty and putting your bag on the chair, but going out there and to see what you can actually do. If we do that, we can change this world as women. And I think it was when the ambassador was speaking that I realized how much women are in leadership in Rwanda. The first thing I said was, now I know why Rwanda is where it is now. It may not have arrived, but way ahead of most of us as in country-wise. When women are in leadership, you see the difference. And always remember this, most men are timid when it comes to women. They think that when a woman is there, she's the iron lady, she's a dictator. No, we just we want to break the norm. The norm being like it's only men that can do it. If a woman says it, no, this is not her place. Her place is in the kitchen. Breaking that glass ceiling. I love that word. I've always used it. As I said, I fell out with someone because of that. But we need to make sure we encourage the women to break the glass ceiling. And your message about that pregnant woman you met, I'm sure her life is completely changed. We get that every day. And the other thing I wanted to mention out of your message is that, of course, I'm in for marriage, don't get me wrong. But let a woman don't feel that moving out of that space is going to... We don't care about the labels anymore. I say I don't care about the labels. It's care about yourself and how you think you'll make a difference. You won't make a difference in the grave. So you need to make sure that if it is toxic, get out. And get out really fast. Forget about the label.
Thank you so much. Now you see the reason why I had to give her that question, because I was listening attentively when she spoke. And I am one who is just going to absorb all of the brilliance. And we're going to Her Excellency right at the table here because of the work that she's doing in Benue State. And of course, we have the young people in the room who are listening and just wondering, is this thing, women in leadership, is it a facade? Is it actually real? Is it possible? Now, Her Excellency, my question would be, a lot of times we have used words like capacity building, and that's very loosely used, because for me, capacity building is holding your hand to show you what to do. And so, how much do you think that women are doing in terms of mentorship that will support the younger woman to get into leadership? And what could be done? Thank you.
I would like to say that the female political office holders also need help to be effective in passing on the baton. And this can be done by empowering them with the requisite tools they need to take into the field of politics. And yes, capacity building is one of it. When we talk of capacity building, I'm sure we are all looking at self-improvement, on how we work on our character, our emotions, to be able to be good managers of people. And of course, capacity building should also involve the skills we need to navigate issues. We cannot go into a male-dominated sphere without being prepared and knowing exactly how we should go about what we need to achieve. And so, it is very important that we build on our skills, lobbying skills, advocacy, campaigns. So when the women that are currently in politics have the necessary support, they will be able to put the upcoming ones on track. And of course, I would also want to say that there is a huge gap existing on the depth of political knowledge amongst our women. We are interested in participating in politics, but most times we seem not to have much knowledge on the itinerary or political activities that go on in our environment. Sometimes it's like we are just jumping into it, and it really shows that we come unprepared. I've been repeating the word prepared, because in my interaction with our women, I realized that has a very big challenge. Why they support me to voice out our concerns, and then when it is that time for some of our women to come out and represent us in these key positions, you start finding you find it difficult to get those that are ready, those that have the requirements that we put them in that office. It's not just about advocating for affirmative action, but it's also about us having the qualities so that we are able to justify why we are ready, we are here, we are prepared, and we cannot be involved. So when the women in politics are well empowered on political knowledge, they will do better. And it is important for us to understand that politics is about making a change. Now, when you go with that notion into politics, you have an idea of your expectations and what you also expect from your endeavor. So it is very important that the women in politics are supported, to encourage the upcoming ones, to guide them so that we are able to avert most of the mistakes we have had currently and to make accelerated progress.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Her Excellency. And I think that Stacy is ready for us. Hello, Stacy. Hi, can you hear me?
How are you? Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you unmute your mic, please?
I'm unmuted. Could you hear me?
Can you type what you would like us to do for you? Okay, just when we're about to bring on Stacy, the microphone is not working, but of course Thea is here to save us. So Thea, how were some of the ways that you were able to break the glass ceiling? Because that's what I'm hearing in a lot of conversation today. The glass ceiling hindering us being in the box and stepping up to leadership roles. What were some of the major things that you had to do that helped you? Over to you.
I think if I can, just really agree with what was being said in terms of preparation as well. I learned many hard lessons and I failed often. And I think to also allow yourself to fail, because through failing, it means you're at least trying and you're learning. I remember in the beginning, I would be so eager if I see unfair labor practices or human rights violations on a project, and I would want to storm into the CEO or the owner or the lender and have conversations about you should do X, Y, and Z to improve the community standing or to improve the housing. I remember once for a mine, we had to do a resettlement project and graves were moved. And I mean, that is a traumatic thing to be experienced. And the company that was appointed to do it was not respectful and brought small coffins because he said it's just bones, people can just be moved. And I stopped the process and I said, we will not tolerate this. And you have to understand that even if you have the heart of gold, your preparation is key, because you have to be able to speak the language of the CEO, of the CFO, often people with a finance background or an engineering background or a different political background. You need to understand what makes them tick and what is their carrot.
Yes.
So if I could go back to the client and say, you're supposed to have X product sold in the global market, every day that you're not able to deliver the product, whether it's oil and gas or coal or gold or diamonds, you're paying penalties of, let's say, 10 million a day. And if you're not treating the community fairly, there will be more unrest, there will be work stoppages. So let's fix the social aspects and make sure that you're able to deliver the product earlier. So until I learned that it's in preparation, it's in speaking their language. We were talking the other day, just at the mining in Durban again, about engaging with traditional leaderships versus political leaderships, and when is it clashing, how to do that, how to navigate that process. And I think you have to understand what is important for the political leadership, what is important for the political leadership. So we need to, hi Stacey, are you now online?
Ooh. Could you hear me now?
Yeah.
Stacey came up.
Go for it.
Yay.
Wonderful. But we'd like to see her face, if that's possible. Yes. Can you hear me, Stacey?
Yay. Yes,
Oh,
I can hear you clearly.
Great. I'm so excited that you're able to make it. But let me just finish up with Thea. I'm not going to cut her off and then come to you. Just 1 minute.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Thanks so much. So I think definitely in terms of speaking the language of whoever is the decision makers, learning, do your homework. We were discussing about archiving and the value of information over lunchtime. And I think, if you have research, if you have statistics, if you have data, if you are well prepared, you always can put a case forward. You must be the person that is the best prepared in the room. So from my side, constantly prepare and do research, and don't think that because you've never done a welfare organization, I've never opened a school. I had to study and make sure that I fully understand what is required from a legal point as well. But get advisors. Somebody here was mentioning in terms of mentorship and coaching. We don't all just need one mentor. We potentially need a mentor in relationships, a mentor in wellness, a mentor spiritually, financial planning, and in business. So make sure that you surround yourself with different advisors. And I want to challenge the ladies here. Maybe next year we have to come back, each of us coming to bring a progress report. We can have posters along the walls, each one putting a poster of what they've done in this year.
I love it. That is so good, because we have to go away with something. And Madam Ijoma, can you give me some 5 minutes to talk to Stacey? Is that okay? I know you're going to be kind. So Stacey, my question for you is, you're representing Namibia. Stacey is the Chief Executive Officer for Namibia Trade Forum. My question for you would be, we're looking at the story of Rwanda when it comes to women in leadership. Do you think that's possible in Namibia? Or what are the factors that could hinder that? Do you think this is possible for us to do the same thing? Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me before
Yes.
I speak?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much for your patience. I know it's been difficult and frustrating. So I'm actually traveling and I had to stop over to lodge just so I could join today. So I'm really glad that I'm here. I would have loved to be there physically. But really, I'm so encouraged and enthused by the conversations going on in the room. When we talk about, women's summits, sometimes we think we're going to speak about the theoretical elements of leadership, but I'm so glad to see that there's some spirit coming out of it, there's some inspiration coming out of it, there's real stories coming out of it, because we cannot talk about leadership in isolation. Leadership is about a person, and so all of that needs to be addressed. So thank you very much to the organizers and for who's engineering today's stories. In terms of your question, so Namibia is doing quite well in terms of women in leadership. If I can just give you a quick glance, we're at about 46% of women in the National Assembly. I don't know if you know, but we have the youngest minister in Namibia. She's 24 this year, and actually she was a student of mine when I elected law. But I think we're doing really well in terms of women in leadership. And to my mind, quite honestly, the reasoning for that is quite simple. I do want to, as well as applaud the president in terms of his intentionality, putting women in leadership. But for me, the heart of it is here. When we talk about inclusive, sustainable development, we have got to be able to put women in the right places to shift policy. Because at the end of the day, decisions cannot be taken if policies are not in place. I have a really strong...
Oh, no. She was just getting started. I think she's going to join us again. Ms. Ijoma, please, could you allow me just one question that is so important, and that is about presence. when it comes to women in leadership, because just like she shared, a lot of people talk down on women. It's like, oh, she's not dressed properly. And some of the times I look at success stories, like for example, like the Prime Minister of New Zealand. I remember when she was campaigning, people asked her to go back and do her makeup at home. She has nothing to offer. What do you think, or how should women present themselves? Because we're going to face a lot of pushbacks. You know, in Nigeria, we're preparing for election now, and I have some women that we're working with closely who are about to campaign. And some of the things that they shared with me said, you know what, Dr. Louisa, the numbers continue to reduce. And that's not encouraging. People come out this year and next year they're gone. The media throws stuff at you, of course, the society, family, culture, religion, everything tears you down. Now, how can we present ourselves to gain some kind of influence or credibility or trust so people are ready to work with us, so people don't think that we're a joke? And that's something that is usually not touched, but we have to. We really have to. Because if you do not understand your why and what you're doing and why you should be there, and if you do not have the mind of my sister, Dr. Esperanza, just one attack is going to throw you back into your room. So presence is very important. How can we present ourselves so that people can believe in us? And when I talk about presence, it's not just about the looks, it's the ABC. Appearance, behavior, and communication. How can we present ourselves in a way that people will trust what we are about or what we are intending to do? And this question is for you, Fina.
Okay, I was going to say something, but I'll just let her.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to, you know, at the time you asked, so what is the way forward? Before I come to that, we see numbers and we appreciate numbers when we see women in leadership, right? But sometimes we get lost in counting the numbers, and those women don't necessarily sit there with the agenda that is pro-women, and that's something we need to guard against, so that we don't just do tokenism kind of leadership where we say we have 100% women in leadership, but the agenda they push is not even pro-women, you know, and even the type of policies that they endorse say nothing about the development and the empowerment of women. And how we present ourselves is not necessarily the dress code, exactly. Because bodily autonomy, how I look, is my choice, you know, and therefore we need to shift, you know, the paradigm and to shift the norm from prescribing to women what their behavior should be, what they should say, you know, how loud they should speak. Because that's the problem. We start putting them in a box if there's a certain way they must present themselves. But a woman who stands for, you know, a woman who's true to the agenda of pursuing women issues is one that I will listen to, and men will listen when you know your story and you stand your ground, because then they know that you're not just a tick box. So I think for us as women, we need to move away from just, yes, I'm here representing women, but what is your agenda? You are saying what is your why, and I'm saying what is your agenda? Check your agenda, and if it's not pro-women, then allow another woman to come in and push women forward. That's what we need.
I love it, Fina. Yes, you might not be the voice, but you could be the echo that amplifies the voice.
And I would
so
like
you
to...
might not have it yet. You might not have the initiative yet. You might not have the agenda yet. But how can you work with another woman who has to help their voice? And those are the things that you wanted to share something?
Yes, I wanted to quickly add something to what she said, which she rightly talked about, you know, beyond the looks. And to take this opportunity to appeal to the queens in the room, most times we size each other up. And again, yes, we say it's not what we're wearing, but at the back of our head, you know, like the queen over there said, there's that subconscious thing about, is she carrying a Birkin bag? Is she in my class enough to speak to me? I think that I always say that we are all stars. The room is shining bright now with artificial lights, but we all have our lights in us. And we should give each one of us an opportunity to show you the light inside. A lot of times, if we're being really honest with ourselves, I saw you and I walked up to you and I said, you know, you're pretty, but no, you're not pretty, you have a presence, because I noticed you at the airport. So we have to open up our minds and remove that bias and blockage and glass ceiling that we put on ourselves against our fellow woman and allow her to shine her own unique light and not what you want her to reflect to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ijoma. We're just rounding this up. Of course, I want to say that every woman here, thank you so much for your time. And as you walk away from this session, remember that you are a light. And the light only exists to take care of darkness. So there's darkness around you. How can you shine your light? How can you amplify your voice? Go back home and find your why and begin from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This the bomb. Well, we're going to take a break, but let's quickly take